Translator. Editor, Fish Creek. That unkempt elder slowly shut his eyes. If you cannot find the sacred child of reincarnation, you know what awaits you. Grand Shaman bowed and withdrew from the sacred hall, bearing Butcher's lower body with him. The moment he stepped out of the sacred hall, crisp, crunching noises sounded from within, as though something inside were gnawing on Shaman King Gyatso's body. Grand Shaman's eyelids spasmed, and a stabbing pain surged from his waist. He had crudely fastened Shaman King Gyatso's body onto his own, and used his magic power to lash them together. Yet their flesh and their bones, tendons, meridian channels, essence, chi, and blood were still not truly joined as one. He would still need secret medicine to fuse them completely and make Gyatso's body become his own body. Ever since he had obtained Butcher's body, he had believed he could finally take one more step forward in this lifetime. Never had he expected Butcher to still be alive and come to seek him out. Moreover, with Grandmaster's corporeal body already withered, he did not dare to gamble in a life-and-death struggle against Butcher, leaving him no choice but to relinquish Butcher's lower body. Though Shaman King Gyatso was not weak, he still could not compare to Grand Shaman's former body. If he wished to cultivate back to his previous realm, he had no idea how long it would take. Grand Shaman endured the pain and carried Butcher's lower body down the mountain. Chinmu had already climbed up the mountain together with Butcher and Blind, so they met halfway along the slope. Grand Shaman set Butcher's lower body down and greeted, "Heaven Khan." Butcher glanced at his lower body, then at Grand Shaman's waist, and shook his head. "Why go through all that trouble? I should still thank you for nurturing my corporeal body for over 200 years and not letting it die." The corners of Grand Shaman's eyes twitched twice. Chinmu took out that golden lower body and said, "Grand Shaman, I'll return your body to you. There's no meaning in me keeping it." The muscles on Grand Shaman's face quivered as he replied in a hoarse voice, "It's useless to me." "You can refine it into a treasure," Chinmu asked with goodwill. "I can see your body isn't attached properly. I'm proficient in the art of healing. If Grand Shaman can trust me, I can help you attach it properly. You want to seize the chance to harm me?" Grand Shaman sneered and carried his lower body away. Chinmu shook his head and sighed. "All doctors treat patients as their own children. I had planned to use his body as warm-up before helping Grandpa Butcher reattach his body." Butcher smiled. "I trust your medical expertise. If we could return and find Apothecary and let him do it personally, it would be even better. However, going back to Great Ruins would take far too long." He suddenly shouted, "Old fellow, are you still alive?" His booming voice echoed through the entire mountain. From Roland's Golden Palace came an ancient, razor-edged voice. "Don't worry. If Heaven Khan hasn't died yet, how could I be dead? This old ghost is truly still alive." Butcher laughed coldly. "I'll make you die sooner or later. Let's go." Chinmu carried Butcher's lower body, and the three of them descended the mountain. Blind turned back to glance at the mountain, as though lost in thought. That person inside is extremely strong. Butcher let out a breath and smiled. "I figure I'm not his match without my lower body. That's why you must accompany me here to deal with him. This old fellow has reincarnated 17 times and lived through 18 lifetimes. His lifespan has likely reached 10,000 years, yet he still refuses to die. I've fought him a few times. He's formidable." Chinmu cried out, "Lived through 18 lifetimes? A lifespan of 10,000 years? How can that be possible? How could it be impossible? In Great Ruins, you should have seen gods and devils who have lived far longer than 10,000 years, haven't you? In truth, this world holds many frightening things, yet you are still young and you cannot come into contact with such existences for now." Butcher continued, "That old thing may not be a devil or a god, but he's not far from them. He knows much about the past and countless secrets. If he were not an enemy, I wouldn't have stood against him." Blind nodded. "There are indeed terrifying existences. For instance, my eyes." He shook his head and said nothing more. Chinmu's heart trembled faintly. Blind's eyes had been gouged out by someone, yet Blind had never told anyone who did it. What secret lay behind this? After they left Roland's Golden Palace and regrouped with Ling Yuxiu, they headed to a barbarian city on the prairie. Chinmu bought a few medicinal ingredients in the city. then took a huge cauldron from his sack. "Grandpa Butcher, I must boil your lower body first, to purge the blood of Grand Shaman and the shaman poison within it." He poured a huge jar of water into the cauldron and placed the medicinal ingredients into the water one by one. When the water began to boil and release a medicinal fragrance, he then lowered Butcher's body into the water. Hoolinger worriedly asked, "Will it be cooked?" Blind grinned and said, "When you smell the fragrance of meat, then it's cooked." Butcher snapped angrily, "My body couldn't even die after being severed by a god. How could it be cooked by nothing more than a pot of boiling water?" After boiling for a time, Chinmu watched the color of the medicinal water, then opened a medicine goblet and pinched out a few dried black and red toads. Each was no bigger than a fingernail, and he scattered them into the cauldron. The toads were already dried up, yet the moment they entered the water, they revived and darted about in the boiling brew, absorbing the shaman poison. Not long after, those few toads died from the poison. Chinmu changed to a fresh cauldron of water and repeated the same steps 9 times, refining the shaman poison out completely. He saw the blood in Butcher's lower body returning to a proper red, and his blood began to circulate through the vessels on its own as though it were alive. Chinmu boiled yet another cauldron of water and swapped in more than a dozen medicinal ingredients, stirring the activity of flesh and blood all the way until late at night. Ling Yuxiu and the little fox had already fallen asleep. The green bull had also gone to sleep, while Blind sat on the floor, dozing as he leaned on his bamboo cane. Only Chinmu and Butcher remained on guard beside the cauldron. Chinmu drew out his junior protector sword and handed it to Butcher. "Grandpa Butcher, I can't cut your body, so you'll have to do it yourself. You must cut away the flesh membrane that has grown over your upper body. There's no need to use your sword. I'll use my knife." Butcher pulled out his pig slaughtering knife and clenched his teeth as he sliced, cutting off the flesh membrane that had grown over his wounds. His cultivation was strong, so he could immediately use his vital chi to seal the wounds and keep them from bleeding. Chinmu lifted the lower body out of the cauldron. The wound on the lower body was still fresh, so there was no need to slice it. Chinmu took out jade bottles and carefully smeared the dragon's saliva across the cross-sections of the upper and lower body. The instant he spread the dragon's saliva, he could see flesh sprout rapidly, like tiny red worms wriggling without end. He did not connect the two halves at once. Instead, he refined his vital chi into threads, using them to pick out every tendon and nerve to reconnect them first. The vital chi threads upon his palm multiplied as they linked each piece of flesh, each membrane, the intestines, the spine, and gradually fused the body together. However, the skin at the waist had not yet grown out. Chinmu finally applied some dragon's saliva to the wound, and the skin naturally grew back as well, sealing the injury. He steadied his spirit, lifted Butcher, and placed him into the medicinal cauldron. He tossed the last packet of medicinal ingredients into the cauldron and brought the water to a gentle simmer. In the cauldron, Butcher rested his arms at his sides and suddenly said, "Mu'er, thank you for all your hard work." Chinmu shook his head and smiled. "I've learned the art of healing from Grandpa Apothecary for so many years. Everything I know was taught by Grandpa Apothecary. It can't be called hard. I only hope you won't end up with a messy reputation like apothecaries." The water slowly began to boil, and Butcher exhaled a mouthful of white mist. "That's right. I kept seeing you pull things out of that little cloth sack, and even this cauldron came out of it. There's something strange about your sack. Let me take a look." Chinmu handed over the sack and said, "I picked up this sack in Roland's Golden Palace. I don't know how, but there's an area of 1 acre inside it, so I've been using it to store items." Butcher opened the sack and peered inside. Then his expression turned odd. "Mu'er, it seems you've picked up quite a lot from the treasury of Roland's Golden Palace." Chinmu's face flushed slightly red. "You can learn from Cripple, but you must not become addicted," Butcher sighed. "In truth, each of us in the village has our own bad habits. Cripple likes to steal. Apothecary often poisons people and flirts everywhere. As for me, I was too arrogant in the past and raised my knives against the heavens. Blind is supercilious and frivolous. Deaf is too proud. Mute has his own way of thinking and tells no one about it. Don't even mention Village Chief, acting like he's some profound mystery, and Granny is a troublemaker. I'm afraid you've learned all our bad points. Chin-Moo said solemnly. Don't worry, Grandpa Butcher. Ever since I left the village, I haven't created any trouble yet. Patriarch is very pleased with me. In that case, good. You may create trouble, but you must be able to settle it. Butcher shook the sack and smiled. I've seen this sack before. It's called a Tauti sack, and it's made from Tauti skin. There should be a pure-blood Tauti in Great Ruins, and if our villagers join forces, we might be able to defeat it. The skin used to make this Tauti sack isn't from a pure-blood Tauti, but its lineage can be considered extremely high. The Tauti sack I saw in the past was only 10 feet in diameter and couldn't hold many things. This one should have been made from the skin of a strange beast that carries the Tauti bloodline. So I see. Chin-Moo was astonished and immediately asked, I've seen houses that don't look big from the outside, yet inside they have an enormous space. How does that happen? That's easy. Grind up the bones of strange beasts with the Tauti bloodline and mix it into the cement. Mixing it into paint works as well. In that way, the internal space becomes larger. Butcher said, Tauti is a divine beast, a kind of dragon. This divine beast only eats and never shits, so the space in its stomach is extremely vast. Its skin can be used to make a Tauti sack, while its bones can be used to build a house. There are many uses for it, but there are far too few pure-blood ones. Chin-Moo stayed by his side, and the two of them chatted idly until Chin-Moo fell asleep without realizing. When he woke, he discovered the fire beneath the cauldron had gone out. He was about to rekindle it when Butcher's voice sounded from the side. Muir, there's no need. I feel there are no major problems with my body now. And Chin-Moo immediately turned back and saw Butcher already dressed. He wore a new pair of pants, the very one Chin-Moo had made earlier after buying some fabric while purchasing the medicinal ingredients. This elder wore a loose Chinese gown on his upper body, and the bristly, messy beard stubble had been cleanly shaved, making him look refreshed. Butcher looked Chin-Moo up and down and nodded repeatedly. You've already grown up. We helped you in the past, and now you can already help us. Good, good. Blind's voice came from outside. You who slaughter pigs, if you keep talking, you won't be able to leave. Your disciple has already caught up. Butcher walked out and said, There's a hand bone of a god in your Tauti sack, and I'll keep it for you. You can't carry that thing around. The god is still alive. If you take it with you, it will only bring you disaster. Chin-Moo was shocked. The owner of the hand bone is still alive? Translane Tales, editor Fish Creek. That year, I cleaved it down from the heavens, so of course he's still breathing. Butcher and Blind walked shoulder to shoulder, their steps unhurried, yet their figures ate up the distance as though the prairie itself slid beneath their feet. From far ahead, Butcher's voice drifted back. This is the hand I traded my lower half for, but the divine flesh upon it seems to have been peeled away and refined into spirit pills for others to swallow. Only the bones remain. Muir, don't forget to return to the village for the New Year celebration. Blind's voice followed from afar as well. Chin-Moo watched them go, smiling. He waved toward their receding backs. I'll definitely come back for New Year. Blind seemed to catch that wave. Without turning his head, he lifted his arms and waved back. Grandpa Blind really is formidable, Chin-Moo exclaimed, to see that clearly from so far away. Not long after, a thunderous voice rolled in from the distant horizon, echoing beneath the prairie sky. Junior Brother Chin! Brother Chin! Chin! Chin-Moo recognized Chancellor Bashan at once and shouted, I'm here! That great voice did not stop, still calling Imperial Academician Chin. Academician Chin. Kin. Chin-Moo answered again, yet Chancellor Bashan's bellow continued from the far distance, and Chin-Moo finally understood. Chancellor Bashan must still be several hundred miles away. His voice can reach me, but mine can't reach him. Ling Yuxi woke with a start and said at once, Coward! Let me! As she spoke, she flicked her sleeve and released a flame divine art. One fireball shot into the sky and burst open, heat waves surging outward. Chin-Moo praised her quick thinking in his heart and smiled. It won't help. He's still a few hundred miles away. He won't be able to see it. Hoolinger and the Green Bull roused as well. The green bull scanned about, but could not find Butcher or Blind, and he asked, "Where is old master?" "They've gone." Chinmu still heard Chancellor Bashan shouting in every manner imaginable and couldn't help sighing. Chancellor Bashan's lungs were truly immense, and he truly could chatter. Hard to picture how such a rough fellow could be so talkative. Chinmu said, "Let's head toward the border. If Chancellor Bashan can't find us, he'll definitely go that way." The green bull revealed his true form, and Chinmu lifted Hulinger onto its back. Ling Yushu also sprang up. The green bull took one step and then charged toward the borderlands. Chinmu glanced at the girl beside him and asked, "Have your injuries healed?" Ling Yushu nodded. "Even the scar is gone. Look, there was a cut at my waist, and now it's completely healed." She tugged up her clothes and turned slightly, baring her waist. "Right here." Her skin was delicate, her waist pale as jade. She likely had never been browned by the sun. Chinmu's own skin had once been darker, since every summer he often swam naked in surging river, baking under the fierce sun. Sometimes he was even chased without respite by enormous fish monsters snapping at his heels. Now that he had come to the Imperial College, Chinmu no longer had chances to run about naked, so his complexion had gradually lightened. Even so, beside Ling Yushu, he still looked a shade darker. Chinmu extended one finger and pressed the place where she'd been wounded. Beneath the skin, he could still feel a small raised knot. Ling Yushu felt a tickle and let out a giggle. Chinmu said, "Don't move. I'll help you disperse the clotted blood. Otherwise, a bump will always remain here." Ling Yushu immediately stopped fidgeting and held her shirt up. Chinmu turned his vital chi into green dragon vital chi. Threads of chi seeped from his fingertip. Carefully slipping into her skin to melt and disperse the congealed blood, Ling Yushu only felt numbness and ticklish warmth, which made her giggle again. "You're tickling me. There's a ticklish spot there." Chinmu did not lift his head. "Endure it. In a moment it won't itch, and it will feel a little painful." A moment later, Ling Yushu felt a needle-like stab and immediately looked down. She saw only Chinmu using his nature-fragrant silk handkerchief to wipe away the dark clots that seeped out. Once the clotted blood flowed away, no trace remained on the skin. Ling Yushu let her shirt fall and blinked with innocent eyes. "Divine physician, there are still wounds on my back. I don't know if they'll leave scars." Hulinger answered loud and clear, "I already smeared medicine on the wounds on your back, and before I applied it, I squeezed out the clotted blood for you. They won't leave scars." Ling Yushu looked at her, and the little fox was smiling very sweetly and very fake. "Humph, vixen," both of them thought at the same time. Hulinger blinked. "Sister Yukshu, how old are you this year?" Ling Yukshu's gaze flickered as she asked in return, "How old are you?" "I'm 12. "I'm 16. "You're 1 year older than young master." Ling Yushu felt as though a tiny fox had leapt onto her chest and stabbed twice into her aching heart. This fox might be small, but her moves were ruthless and unexpected, leaving no room to parry. Ling Yushu had long since noticed this little fox harbored wicked designs, climbing onto Chinmu's bed every night and acting as if she knew nothing, with no restraint at all, shamelessly cute. And now, this little hussy had begun to press the attack. Ling Yushu might be unconstrained, a big-hearted, blunt and straightforward girl unlike other maidens, yet she also had her own meticulous side. She smiled sweetly. "Sister Ling, the fur on your paws is truly soft. Why haven't you tried turning them into human hands?" Hulinger yawned and narrowed her eyes. "Young master likes it this way." "Sister Ling, why haven't you transformed?" "Young master likes it this way." "Look at your eyes. They're different from ours." "Young master likes it this way." Ling Yushu conceded defeat. This little fox's defense was watertight, and after blocking she would immediately counterstrike, like great Thunderclap Monastery's divine art, flowers in the mirror, which could reflect an opponent's force back upon them. Who taught this vixen? Ling Yushu couldn't match her and felt a touch of anger. Hulinger was secretly proud. At Rain Listening Pavilion, she had consulted the maidens there about the techniques of this very field. Ling Yushu suddenly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She, a princess, was actually jealous of a little fox. She had truly lost the dignity of the imperial clan. She had her figure, and though Chinmu was slightly blind to call her a bit chubby, her looks were not bad. No matter how sharp the fox's moves were, she still hadn't transformed. Victory was already firmly held in Ling Yushu's hands, and there was no need at all to be jealous of that vixen. Before they reached the border, Chancellor Ba Shan finally caught up. When he saw that Butcher had already left, the strong man fell into a daze, then began wailing loudly while cursing Heaven Knife at the same time. Qin Mu comforted him for a while and said, "It's not that he doesn't miss you. He just can't stand your nagging," so he went on ahead. "Grandpa Butcher actually cares about you a lot. The moment he heard you were in danger, he was the first to rush over. Stop crying, stop crying. We're about to reach the border station. How can a Marshal Khan be seen sobbing like a little girl?" Chancellor Ba Shan wiped his tears and began pouring out all his grievances. He told Qin Mu everything under the sun. How, as a child, he had been made to stand still as punishment for wetting the bed. Every detail of his cultivation. How he helped Heaven Knife wash his undergarments. How Heaven Knife had taken him to steal duck soup from the neighboring village. Qin Mu looked at Ling Yushi with pleading eyes, and she could only shrug helplessly. Imperial College. The young patriarch silently packed his belongings into a small bundle and tossed the ribbon attached to the official seal onto the floor. He hung the official seal upon the door of the Hall of Supreme Learning, then took one last look at the Imperial College and smiled. Elder of Discipline hurried over, carrying a bamboo basket that wasn't very large. In it were an umbrella and things like scrolls and books. "Let's go. There's no need to disturb the others," the young patriarch said with a smile. The two walked down the mountain without alerting anyone. When they reached the foot of the mountain, that dragon Qilin immediately rose and wagged its tail. "My life is nearing its end. I can't bring you along anymore." The youth stroked the dragon Qilin's head and shook his head. "If you follow me, you'll only be waiting for me to die of old age. Little friend, you are free." "Kacha!" The chain around the dragon Qilin's neck sprang open. The dragon Qilin stared at him blankly, shook its head and asked, "Old master, if I can't follow you, where can I go? You once lived in freedom. Where is there that you cannot go?" The young patriarch lifted his hand and looked toward the Imperial College he had personally built, reluctance flickering in his eyes. Then he suddenly turned away and left. "I spent my last years here, yet today I depart. I do not wish to die of old age within Imperial College." One old and one young left the capital city behind. Once outside the city, the young patriarch asked Elder of Discipline to remain, and he himself walked alone toward that person. "Dao friend," the Imperial preceptor greeted him. "You're leaving just like this? You won't request dismissal from the Emperor?" The young patriarch smiled. "When I took the position without effort, I did not come for the Emperor, so why must I leave for the Emperor? I'm glad you invited me here, and that you've come to see me off now." Eternal peace. Imperial preceptor sighed with rue. "Dao friend can already face death with open eyes. I wonder how many years I must cultivate before I can reach the height of your state of mind. Let me send you off." The two walked forward side by side, while Elder of Discipline followed at a distance. Eternal peace, Imperial preceptor said, "When I learned you were leaving, I felt as though a great piece had been torn from my heart. In this world, no one understands me better than you. Without you, I have one fewer person to speak with." The young patriarch said, "Your ambitions are grand, and the road ahead is paved with hardship. The path you walk is full of ruts and stones. There is nothing I can teach you. You must rely on yourself." Eternal peace. Imperial preceptor stopped. "Back then, I wanted to acknowledge you as my teacher." "Why did you refuse?" The young patriarch answered calmly, I knew that in the future you would surpass me, and your attainments would rise higher than mine. So I do not deserve to be your teacher. Therefore, I cannot accept you as a disciple. The things you have conceived are things I never once considered, things I could never have accomplished in my entire lifetime. I have also learned many things from you. Therefore, I cannot be your teacher." Eternal peace. Imperial preceptor strode after him. "Lately I'm still somewhat perplexed and weary. Tell me, are we walking an orthodox path?" "In the eyes of the so-called orthodox, the road we tread is not orthodox." The young patriarch halted and looked him straight in the eyes. "We established primary schools, colleges, and Imperial College to reform the sects. We gathered the teachings of countless sects to instruct scholars, treating commoners and sect disciples as equals. In their eyes, we have strayed from orthodoxy and committed an unforgivable sin. Yet in our eyes, this is orthodoxy. Don't heed what others say. What is right is right. Don't let the furious barking of others twist it into wrong.